What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Zid back at it again with another video, and as you can see from the caption below, we are going to focus on terms that you should know as a CNA. I'm only going over 5 today. You might get a bonus one, but before we get into it, this is Vlogmas day number 2, video number 2, and yeah, we're doing Vlogmas. As you know, my Vlogmas schedule is every other day, so I posted one on the 1st, and I'm gonna post this one again on today, the 3rd, and then I'm gonna post again on the 5th, 7th, 9th, and so on. So you can get a video every other day from me. But before we get into that, go ahead and like, go ahead and comment, go ahead and subscribe. Follow me on the gram at IZLERY, and we are pushing toward 2,000 subscribers. So big shout out to everybody that's been supporting the channel. Big shout out to you. I appreciate every single one of you guys who comment, like, all that good stuff for the channel. If you see any videos that you enjoy, go ahead and share them with people that you know, because the CNA game is growing, and the channel that we're building and the community that we're building over here is growing as well. So I don't want to make the intro too long because we're about to get into it. Alright, this is video number 2 for Vlogmas. So I want to just kind of still stay educational with the videos that I've been posting for Vlogmas. I don't want to go off on too many tangents of then like vlogs, because I do have a couple vlogs that I want to post, but it's going to be later on, closer to the middle of the month, and then closer to Christmas as well. But for the beginning, we're going to stay on this educational track. Now, for CNAs, there are certain terms that you should know. There are certain terms that you're going to learn, but I kind of want to help you guys get ahead of the curve before you even start at your facility or before you start at the hospital. So I have a list of terms here. I have them on my phone, so I'm going to look at them. Like I said, it's only going to be 5, so we're going to start with number 1. It's called Q2. So essentially it means that something is going to be done every 2 hours. So if you're going to turn a patient every 2 hours, you're going to turn them every 2 hours. If you're going to turn a patient every 2 hours, you're going to turn that patient every 2 hours. If you're going to feed that patient every 2 hours, which is rare, then you're going to feed that patient every 2 hours. If you're going to check that patient's blood sugar, vitals, or do a bladder scan or something like that every 2 hours, that means you're going to do it every 2 hours. Same thing with Q4, which means every 4 hours. Same thing with Q6, which means every 6 hours. That's the initial term that is used quite heavily within the hospital system, and it's something that you're going to want to know, because when I first learned it, I didn't know exactly what it meant. It even took me a little bit to fully understand what they meant by Q2. At first, I thought it meant like per shift, 2 times a day, which means like daytime shift and nighttime shift. But no, it actually means the hourly rate that you're going to do something. So definitely pay attention to that. Definitely pay attention to Q4, Q6, and Q2. So that's the first one. Now let's get into the next one. Another term that you guys should definitely know would be a BKA, which essentially stands for below knee amputee or below knee amputation. A lot of times during report, you'll get this. A lot of times you'll hear this, especially, well, depending on what unit you work on. I worked on the neuro unit, which, typically is used quite often. And now I work in a cardiac unit where it's not used as much, but it's still a good term to know in case you are to move on to a different unit, travel to a different place. So even facilities have these as well. So it's below knee amputee or below knee amputation. And basically it's to kind of indicate that the patient has had a amputation. That would be kind of left leg amputation or right leg amputation. And a lot of times you're going to need to know that in case that patient has to basically use the bathroom, in case that patient has other things that they have to do, like their ADLs or something like that. You have to do range of motion or something like that. It's good to know that this person has, doesn't have their full leg. They don't have their full, their full body basically there. So it's typically to, indicate that. And that's something that I heard so many times. And when it finally was explained to me, I was like, really? I just been writing BKA or AKA, on my paper the entire time. AKA means above knee amputee, which means that it's above their knee the amputation has happened. But I haven't seen that as much. But I remember when I first learned it, I was like, wow, like, are you serious? Like, really, like, that's what that stands for. So yeah, that's definitely something that I feel like I definitely want you guys to know before you even start at the hospital, because it's a good chance you might hear it a lot, and I feel like it's definitely something that you should know for sure. Okay, another one that's kind of like basic for healthcare, but I feel like it can really start with this CNA. Like, this is definitely something that you should have learned in your class as well, but it would be a DNR. So a DNR basically stands for do not resuscitate, which means that the patient, if they are typically they're older, and if they do end up coding, which means like, no pulse, no respiration, they end up basically, passing, or in the process of passing, you are not to do anything but to just, keep that patient as comfortable as you can. In that time, you're not going to do any kind of compressions. You're not going to do any kind of epi. You're not going to, kind of revive that patient in any form of fashion, which means that they are essentially going to transition. And that's something that you should know, definitely, because, it's kind of like 101, like healthcare 101. Patients do not resuscitate orders, and it could be for a plethora of reasons. Maybe their POA, made it possible. Maybe they don't want to be a full code. Maybe they want to be a partial code. But, typically your DNR cases are going to happen in healthcare, especially if you work on a neuro unit, a cardiac unit, any place that has your older patient demographic. You also see this at nursing homes as well. So, DNR. That's definitely something you should write down, remember, because you will see it, and you will see it quite soon once you start at a facility or you start at a hospital. Now we're going to get into a Foley. When I first started, I didn't know what a Foley was, but I soon found out. A lot of times you will have to clean Foleys. I know that that's something that it wasn't called that when I took my CNA course. It was called a catheter, right? But I'm now realizing that they have different forms of catheters. They have a in and out, basically in and out Foley or in and out catheter, which means that frequently, which means like maybe once or twice a day, they'll go into the patient's genitalia area. They stick a tube up there. They pass your ureter, it basically enters your bladder. They'll go in and get to the bladder so they can relieve pressure from your bladder, because you don't want to retain too much fluid in there, too much urine in there. That can be harmful for the patient. So basically you stick a tube up through their bladder so they can relieve the urine there and help the patient feel a lot more comfortable, because it can essentially raise the patient's heart rate. I've seen that. It could just really discomfort for the patient. Is to keep the patient comfortable. Oftentimes after procedures or due to some medicines, it can cause a blockage within the patient's urinary tract, and it could basically make it difficult for them to pee. So nurses often use Foleys in order to keep the patient's bladder empty, which makes it easier for them to urinate or pee or whatever. And you will have to clean that as a CNA. So it's simply you take a Foley wipe. You are to wipe. I'm not going to go over like the entire thing, but you are to wipe it a bunch of times with 6 different wipes, and wipe around the area as well to keep it sterilized and keep it clean. Foleys are important. You will see Foleys, especially in the hospital. So, be aware of that for sure. I think we're actually going over 5 terms. Did we hit 5 terms? I'm going to give you guys 2 more. So I'm going to give you guys 2 more. Essentially, it's going to be Bradycardia and TackyCardia. So Bradycardia simply means that the patient's heartbeat has essentially hit under 60, because the normal heart rate is like 60 to 100. Means that it hits under 60, which means that they are now in a bradycardia, basically, and their heart rate is slower. It's to resemble a slow heart rate. You'll see this a lot in older patients. And typically, patients that aren't doing as well, their health will be declining. The heart rate will become a lot slower. Some people sit low, their baseline is low, but typically you want to see a heart rate within a 60 to 100 to, resemble a healthy person or a healthier person. But you will see bradycardia a lot within a neuro unit. I know I keep saying neuro unit because that's typically what I've worked in for so long, but I'm sure you'll see it on other units as well. And you're also going to see another term, which is the last term I have for this video, is going to be tachycardia, which means that the patient's heart rate is a faster heart rate. Typically it's above 100, and you don't want it to get too high because it can be, a sign of a potential seizure and stuff like that. But tachycardia is something that you're going to see. I don't see it as much as bradycardia, but essentially if you have AFib, which is atrial fibrillation, which is a I don't want to get into like too much of the technical terms of it, because that's a longer video, but it's essentially where the patient's heart rate is not consistent. They can, be beating at 110 and then drop down to like 70 or 80. And typically you want your heart rate to stay, the same. But if they have an irregular pattern or irregular heart rate, that would be signs of AFib, atrial fibrillation. And yeah, I want to say that's all I got for this video. I didn't want to make it too long. I hope it's not too long. But this is Vlogmas day number 2. And yeah, I have more videos planned, so make sure you check in every other day. I'm going to try to make sure to post them ahead of time, like get them scheduled so you guys can already know what the video is going to be about. But that's all I got for you on this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. This channel is growing a mile a minute. And I'll see y'all on the next one. So peace.